This regular meeting of the Detroit Lakes City Council is called to order. And at this time, I'd like to ask you all to please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the regular city council meeting, which was held on August 13th, 2019. Is there anyone in the audience or any member of the council that wishes to make any changes, corrections, or any other items on the minutes? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for their approval.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion's made and seconded to approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting held August 13th, 2019. Discussion. All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. The consent agenda is before the council, and all items with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered separately in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience or any member of the council that wishes to either remove or add an item to the consent agenda? Bruce?
Your Honor, we'd like to remove item 6H from the consent agenda, please.
Any other items anyone wants to add or remove?
Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor, Council,
Yeah.
I think 5I and J are normally on the consent agenda. We can choose either put those on the consent agenda or we can take action on them.
I'd like to see him put on the consent agenda, Your Honor.
5I and J.
Yes.
Any other items
I would move the consent agenda, Your Honor.
with those three changes, right?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda with item 6H removed and items 5I and 5J added. Discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Before we get into the public hearings, Tom and Pam Mortensen are here this evening and wish to say a few words this evening to the council. So welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council and city staff. Pam and I are here tonight because of a historic event, actually a couple historical events. As some of you may know, on Sunday at the state capitol, we celebrated the 100th anniversary centennial of the state of Minnesota ratifying the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote in our country. That is a major agenda item that should be recognized by all of us because our young people really don't know what it took 72 years for women to get the right to vote in this country. So we appreciate the fact to sit here tonight and discuss real quickly that the city here, Detroit Lakes, led all the cities in the state of Minnesota in having the mayor issue a proclamation that points out the Minnesota Suffrage Day that was held on September 8th. So we just came to say thank you and hope that you will perhaps attend the League of Women's exhibit that will be appearing at the Becker County Museum later this year on suffrage in Minnesota and the suffrage effort in general. Again, we want to thank the city for its cooperation and help always in trying to promote education and inspiring our young people to learn more about our history. Thank you. That's what we came for.
Perfect.
So,
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Pam.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Thank you again. We appreciate you coming and
well, if you have nothing to do, Mayor, you can come out. I'm going to be giving lectures. Pam and I will be throughout Lake Agassiz's library system here, 7 different locations the next few days. So we look forward to working with you more, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can you grab my water in front of me? At this time, I'm going to adjourn the regular meeting and call to order a public hearing to give consideration to the granting of an on-sale intoxicating liquor license, thank you, and a Sunday liquor license to H&K Industries, doing business as Voyager Lanes at 1377 Westlake Drive. And that would be from September 11th through December 31st, 2019. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to the issue of granting those liquor licenses? Hearing none, that public hearing is closed. What are your wishes?
The Liquor and Gambling Committee looked at this and approves, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to grant an on-sale intoxicating liquor license and Sunday liquor license to H&K Industries doing business as Voyager Lanes. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. At this time, I'll call to order a public hearing in the matter of ordering the abatement of diseased trees for 2019. And before I open it up for comment, Brad, do you want to just mention to the council what this is dealing with?
Council, this year, the Dutch elm disease did come back quite strong. We had, I think it was 43 properties, 40 plus trees, 47, 49 trees that were actually diseased. And what we do is we have our tree inspectors go around, they go to school every year, go around and mark the trees, and then we send letters out notifying the people if it's not on public property, we remove the ones on our property and work with them to get the rest of them down. There's quite a number of them.
My neighbor had his cut down today. Great big elm, so
Appreciate they are.
kind of sad. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to the issue of the abatement of diseased trees in the city for the year 2019? Hearing none, that public hearing is closed. And Bruce, do you want to take this one?
Yes, Your Honor, the Public Works Committee has reviewed this and recommends approval of the resolution ordering the abatement of deceased trees for 2019, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the resolution ordering the abatement of the diseased trees for 2019. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. At this time, I'll call to order a public hearing to receive public comments on the matter of annexation of 1.2 acre tract of land in Detroit Township and zoning the westerly tract of land R2 and the easterly tract of land I1 at 18923 Frontage Road, which is Foltz Acres LLC. Larry, do you want to?
Yes, we received a petition for annexation from Foltz Acres LLC. This is for a small tract of land adjacent to Foltz Trucking on Highway 59 North.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to the issue of that annexation and those zoning designations? Hearing none, that public hearing is closed. What are your wishes, council?
Your Honor, the Community Development Committee reviewed ordinance 453 for annexation of a 1.2 acre tract of land in Detroit Township and zoning the westerly tract of land R2, 1 and 2 family residence district, in the easterly tract of land I1, light industrial at 18923 Frontage Road. And we reviewed it, recommended approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the annexation and the designation of the zoning at 18923 Frontage Road. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. This time, I'll call to order a public hearing to receive public comments in the matter of annexation of a 6.5 acre tract of land in Lakeview Township and a 408.2 acre tract of land in Detroit Township to the city of Detroit Lakes. The territory to be annexed is completely surrounded by land within the city limits. Again, I would call on our Community Development Director, Larry Remen.
This would be the annexation of the lake, Long Lake, and it would include everything that hasn't been annexed previously that is already 100% surrounded. It's just a way to keep our boundaries contiguous and not have any gaps.
So I know there's some folks here from the Long Lake area. Does anyone in the audience have any questions for Larry or any comments about this annexation? And if you would state your
Mr. Mayor, Tom Anderson
And your
with
address, Tom.
806 Longview Drive, also with the Lake Association on Long Lake. Larry, you'd mentioned at the public development meeting that this is kind of a thing that has been done with Detroit and Big Detroit and Little Detroit, and if you could comment maybe on that.
Yes, in the past, we have annexed the lakes once they've been surrounded, just to make sure that there aren't any gaps in our boundaries. So that's why we're doing it here. It doesn't really change anything. It's still a public water of the state of Minnesota.
Okay, and my understanding, there's going to be another meeting later in the week to discuss the potential running of city sewer and water to the west side of the lake. Is that correct?
There is a meeting on Thursday evening, right here at City Hall, 5:30.
5:30, yep.
And that wouldn't have anything to do with this annexation, Tom, but it would.
It would address the issue of the city sewer and water coming to the west side of the lake? Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
You bet. Brad, would you like to come forward? And again, if you'd state your name and address, please.
Bradley Refson, 2062 Elmwood Drive on the east side of Long Lake. I had a couple of questions. The first I even heard about this was when we got the mailing a couple weeks ago. And I guess I'm not sure why, other than what Mr. Emmon just said, is just because it's been done before, but is that a good enough reason?
If the lake dried up, Larry, would it be our land then, or what?
I would leave that to some other attorneys to discuss, but I don't believe so. It would still be public property, I believe, but the point is that we're trying to make sure that there aren't any gaps in the area that we have annexed.
What kind of gaps are you concerned about? You
I don't
mean
know.
little
Just-
pieces between properties or something like that?
Just any gaps that might exist just from the descriptions of what we've annexed already and what we're annexing now.
Okay. My understanding, though, is that public waters in Minnesota are really all controlled by the DNR. Would this change that in any way?
No, this would not change anything.
Okay. And so any of the boating rules, the buoy rules, any of those things would all remain the same?
That would all remain the same. The enforcement would all remain the same.
Okay, because I think it's done now by the county, because we've seen the sheriff.
That's correct.
Water patrol quite a few times. Okay, I was just a little concerned. Part of me remembers when I was a young hippie and paranoid about government control, and I wanted to be sure this wasn't a move to subtly take over something that we're concerned about without our knowing about it.
We try to minimize our conspiracies at the council level here, so.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your information.
Is there anyone else? Jay, again, name and address, please, Jay.
Jay Olmos, 359 West Long Lake Road. So, this has been going on for so many years with the utilities out there. And by annexing the lake, is there any chance that the west side of the lake is not going to get utilities and we could get unannexed back to the county? And if that was to happen,
You wanna try to tackle that one, or?
if that was to happen, would this lake thing interfere with that?
This annexation has really nothing to do with the water and sewer issue on the west side or.
I realize the water and sewer, but how about annexing, is there a chance we're ever going to get given back to the county?
More likely not. Again, you got to remember the annexation, your property taxes cover other things other than the water and sewer costs. Your special assessments, your rates will cover your water and sewer costs, but that's the discussion we want to have on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm not here to talk about the sewer. I'm just talking about if you annex the lake, and then can we undo something later, or?
It doesn't have any implication to whether or not we can or could undo that annexation on the west side. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, well, not really.
Okay. Your question is
I don't know
about
if my question's ever gonna answer about
would we
that.
ever detach the west side of
So
Long
if you
Lake?
say they were going
No.
to detach this later, and now you annex the lake in, is that going to be a problem? I mean, should this wait till after the next Thursday meeting?
No. Let me try to answer your question both ways again. The annexation of the lake wouldn't have any effect on whether or not we would detach the west side. Then you ask me a question, would we ever detach the west side? And the answer is no. We've already put a lot of investment into the north side to get infrastructure to the west side. So even if we don't do it next year, there's always potential that we get water and sewer to the west side. And then also our electric utility, we've already made the changes. I think we're going to do part of it next year, then 2 years we'll do the rest of the electric utility.
Okay. Thank you.
Jay?
But
Is there,
Jay, I really encourage you to come back on Thursday,
yeah, we are
because we want some feedback from the property owners as far as if you're having problems with your water and sewer, your well and septic, what's the interest in getting utilities? Is it now? Is it later? We want to hear from you.
What we really want is make a decision, either do it or don't.
That's why we want your feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be able to afford it, so I hope you don't.
Come Thursday.
Okay.
is there anyone else that wishes to speak to the issue of the annexation? Hearing none, that public hearing is closed. I would entertain a motion from the council.
Your Honor, the Community Development Committee reviewed Ordinance 454 for the annexation of a 6.5 acre tract of land in Lakeview Township and a 408.2 acre tract of land in Detroit Township, which is Long Lake, to the city of Detroit Lakes. Recommended approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to annex the area which is represented by Long Lake. Discussion on the motion?
Say, Mayor,
Yes, please.
just for information purposes, Brad and I read the same James Collins books about government conspiracies all the time, so that's why we're out there, right, Brad?
Well, keep us on our toes then. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. This time I'll call to order a public hearing to receive public comments on the proposed vacation of an alley between West Avenue and the railroad tracks. Kelsey or Larry, do one of you two want to preface that, or John, city engineer?
This is the vacation of an alley that runs from West Avenue to the CP property, and it's between State Street and Front Street.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to the issue of the proposed vacation of that alley? Yes, sir. And would you state your name and address for our minutes, please?
You don't send anybody my way after I'm done, right?
You look like you had enough trouble.
My name's Harry Ryman. We live at 1147 Campbell Avenue, and we own a piece of property over there. My concern is when they, what do they call it?
Vacate?
Vacate. When they vacate that property now, it's been used as an alley for quite some time. Are there like cinders and stuff like that as it's been used over the years, class 5? Because if my yard is extended, then that's what I'm going to have. So I guess my thing is, are they going to bring anything in to make it more like a yard than an alley?
Brad or John, one of you want to field that question, please?
Certainly, Mayor and Council, we would be removing the Class 5 alleyway that's there, at least along the Ryman property. In that portion of the alley, we would remove the Class 5, replace it with topsoil, and then restore turf in that area. The more westerly area will be reconstructed as a private driveway to one of the other adjacent properties along the alley.
So you're going to get a yard there instead of gravel?
Yeah, that's my biggest concern.
Yeah.
I hate to put a garden there and try to dig.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to the issue of the proposed vacation of that alley? Hearing none, that public hearing is closed. Bruce?
Your Honor, the Public Works Committee recommends approval of the resolution vacating an alley between West Avenue and the railroad tracks, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the vacation of an alley between West Avenue and the railroad tracks. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, that motion's carried. I know there's a gal here for item 5C. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like me to move an item on the agenda tonight? If not, I think we'll just go right to the Community Development Committee, and hers is 5C. So We can just start with A, Dan, if you would.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, and A will be really brief. That's the subdivision ordinance. We worked on that in committee. We had some county staff there. They wanted some additional changes, so we're asking to defer this second reading until the next meeting. The changes are minor, but we wanted the city staff and attorney to review those before we moved ahead with that.
And do we have a meeting scheduled with the county coming up here? Was there something Thursday morning, or is it? I'm dreaming again, forget it.
Okay. Anyway, this will be on the agenda for next month, Your Honor.
Very good.
Thank you. Item B is a resolution to approve a conditional use permit to allow a short-term rental of a 3-bedroom home at 1048 South Shore Drive. The Community Development Committee reviewed this, recommended approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a conditional use permit allowing a short-term rental at 1048 South Shore Drive. Discussion on the motion. Ron?
I've got a question, maybe a comment, but as we're getting more of these VRBOs in the neighborhoods, I've had people ask me about, are all these VRBOs meeting the conditions from day one when we go ahead and vote for these? And as far as the enforcement, and some of the neighbors feel that they don't want to be the people that has to call in on their neighbor and say, geez, this isn't being kept up right, is there? So they don't want to be the watchdog, but how is that going to work for these, when they are in neighborhoods, and they've been neighborhoods for a long time, where they've had the same neighbor for 20, 30 years, now they're becoming rentals. And that is a concern with a lot of these, about who's going to make sure that these things are being taken care of, not just today when we approve this, and for the first week or so, but down the road, because like I said, a lot of them said, we don't want to have to be the enforcer. We don't want to be the one that has to call the police or whoever, city office, and say, this isn't working out the way we thought it would be. So is there something that can happen so they don't have to become the enforcer? That's the question they're asking. Some people don't want to mess with that.
Larry?
The people have to meet the conditions in order to have the conditional use permit. If they don't meet the conditions, then we would revoke their conditional use permit. Once they're approved for a conditional use permit, though, they have to sign up to pay the lodging tax, and they also have to sign up for rental registration. Once they do that, Priscilla would go out and check everything and make sure that they meet the conditions, including having the liability insurance that they're required to have.
Well, I understand that part, but what I'm saying, what happens, they're saying they're allowed to have 4 cars, and right off the bat, there's 8 cars, and it continues and so on. I'm saying, is somebody going to automatically be doing the checking?
Neighbors are going to have to call and let us know that. We wouldn't necessarily know that unless we happen to be passing by.
But I thought Priscilla periodically would do re-inspections of property. Doesn't she go around and kind of to a degree?
To a degree, a lot of it is complaint driven.
Yeah.
Others we're trying to do re-inspections every 3 years.
If somebody does call in and has a concern about the rental next door to them, are they anonymous or are they not?
We keep it anonymous.
Okay. I think we're just going to have to tell folks, Ron, that it's a problem. Call in, don't be afraid, because it's going to be anonymous, and we want things to be done right here, you know, so.
Well, I'm just wondering if do we send a notice out to the people within 2-3 doors of one of these, and letting them know that, you know, if things aren't working out the way they should, that you can call, and here's the number, so that they know that the owner next door does have these rights, because a lot of people are a little bit intimidated by some of this, and that's the concern.
We do not send that kind of letter.
I'm thinking we maybe should let these people know that the neighbor, this house is a rental. And
Well, everybody within 700 feet is notified before we have the public hearing for the conditional use
Well, I realize that,
permit.
but I'm talking about once it's put into works, they would be given a notice saying that if things aren't working out, to get people, because a lot of people don't know really what they should be doing on this, and they just suck it up or whatever.
That's a decision the council has not made yet.
Yeah, they do get notified at the beginning of the deal.
Yeah.
And if they did come, you know, that would be a good thing to to bring up, I guess, but.
But I'm just saying, after we get going, they should be notified again that they did get okayed and they have, that the neighbor has rights. That's, because a lot of these people, they've been neighborhoods for years and now they're becoming, in some areas, they could end up having their whole neighborhood, if you're on the lake or whatever, could turn into a rental zone, and that's what people are concerned about.
Okay, well, Dan, go ahead, Kelsey.
I think the only thing I would just point out too is that you could turn your home into a rental property, and that's permitted use, so someone could turn that into a rental, go through the rental registration, and there would be no notice to the adjacent property. At least with the short-term rentals, it's a conditional use permit, so they're at least notified during the conditional use permit process.
Dan, why don't you put this on your agenda?
Sure. See if
Just
there's some.
have the discussion, see if there's support for what Ron is saying, and if so, then we can bring it back to the council. If not, then.
Yep. That makes sense, Your Honor.
Okay. Jay?
I got a question. So this property is on the lake, correct? Does anyone
Yes.
know? Okay.
Yes.
So I know in last month, there was a few that were passed, and it was recommended that boat slips be limited for some of those other short-term rentals that were passed, and so I don't see anything. I mean, are we gonna have a layer of consistency for people that are doing short-term rentals as far as amount of boat slips? Because I know my personal ones that were passed were limited for the boat slips, so I don't see consistency here.
Larry, what is the boat slip regulations in terms of how they would affect these short-term rentals?
We don't necessarily have a limitation on boat slips for residential uses in the city of Detroit Lakes. So that has been something that the Planning Commission has taken individually on each property. So is there consistency? No.
If you're looking at me, I'd say, yeah, I'd like to have the limitation, absolutely. You're welcome to put that in there.
No, I'm certainly, I would have rather the ones that we passed last time not had the limitations, and so I thought I think we should just have consistency to prevent people from.
Do we have jurisdiction if we so choose to take on that jurisdiction or not?
You mean, can we put limits on the number of docks and boat slips that people have at residential properties?
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yikes. I guess you can if you want to.
Well, yeah, that's a condition.
That's part of this conditional use.
Yeah, it's a condition that we.
I think the mayor is asking generically if the council could adopt an ordinance regulating docks on residential properties. Is that the question I heard?
Well,
Or did I
it seems
not?
to me that if, we should be consistent if we're going to do this for one versus another. And
So you're just talking about conditional uses then for short-term rentals?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you can add whatever conditions you feel are appropriate.
So, Mayor, in answer to Mr. Sherman's query, which is a fair one, is, yeah, I would say we should be limiting them, not just, you can do whatever you want. So that would be my opinion. If we want to be consistent, then if these only have one or two slips now, then I would say that should be a condition that would be in there. If we didn't address that because I guess these were all residential units as opposed to last month they were multifamily, and I think that's why the issue came up. But I'd certainly, Jay, in answer to your query, I'm all in favor of putting a limitation on whatever's there now. Can't be any more than that. But that's not in the conditions right now.
I'm okay with it as it is.
But what I hear is you want us to address that in the future?
Consistency, yes.
Okay.
Dan, would you add another thing to your
Yes.
next month's agenda,
I think, yeah.
Thank you.
Do you want to take that through Planning Commission first, or
I
can
think
we?
Larry has already got the note to take that through Planning Commission.
Okay, very good. So,
I
and
think
then we'll address that CDC or.
the query was a good one, yes.
Yep.
Well, and I think too that, we're just getting into this, and I think there's going to be a few bugs to work out on all this all the way across, because it is new, but it's, like I said, for some people, they're going to find their neighborhood, going from a neighborhood into a weekly rental, and that's going to be a big change for a lot of people if they're on the right spot.
And I think we're gonna get to the point where we're seeing a lot of these, and I think that we're gonna see the trend go up, and then we're probably gonna see them start going down, because there's only so much of a need for people, and so.
It's gonna get saturated.
It's gonna get oversaturated, so I don't think we need to be overly concerned, because they still have to rent.
Okay, well,
Mayor, one more comment, and I just, for purposes of both the council and the public to know this, and I was glad to hear Larry mention this yesterday, that as these come in, we are forwarding a list to the county, because technically then these people should not be getting homestead credit on their house. If they're now renting out the whole house for the year, just like it would be rental property that's not eligible for homesteading, and we're letting the county know that.
Same thing as a bed and breakfast, because they don't get the tax exemption either.
so even if they only did this seasonally, does that still apply, Bruce, do you know?
Yeah, it does.
Does it?
Yep.
Okay, well, we had a good discussion, but I think we need
We have
to vote yet, don't we?
Yeah, we need a vote. Motion's out there.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Item C is another conditional use permit for a short-term rental. This is in a two-bedroom home at 908 South Shore Drive. And again, the CDC reviewed it, recommended approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a conditional use permit to allow short-term rental at 908 South Shore Drive. And Mrs. Lake, did you want to say anything?
I'm Beverly Lynch, and I live at 922 South Shore
Oh, you're not
Drive.
Mrs. Lake, I'm sorry, I apologize.
I'm not, I'm representing Susan Lake, right?
Okay, go ahead.
Susan Lake sent Monica Stuckey sent a splendid letter to the Planning Commission about the issues related to short-term rentals, Airbnbs. And I would recommend that the council have that letter, because it raises issues that are pertinent to the development of Detroit Lake West and East.
Okay.
I don't want to go into it because you can all read that, but I want to say that the development of rental properties on Detroit Lake changes the whole aspect of the lake. And that's what she was trying to do, and I think that's what Ron is trying to do, and other people here are too. It's not just a rental property, it's the changing nature of Detroit Lakes. And Monica Stuckey tried to do that. She lives at 900 South Shore Drive, and the property they're looking at is 908. And it makes a big difference if you live at 900 or 922 or 908. And that's the issue that we want to raise, and we want the city council to recognize that any action you take has an impact on the lake itself. Thank you.
Okay, I'll have our city staff make sure that all the council members get a copy of that letter, okay?
Thank you.
All right. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you. Item D is another conditional use permit for a short-term rental. This is for a two-bedroom home at 1104 Bay Ridge Drive. CDC recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a resolution approving a conditional use permit to allow short-term rental at 1104 Bay Ridge Drive. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item E is another conditional use permit to allow a short-term rental of a three-bedroom home at 804 Shorewood Drive. Again, Community Development Committee recommended approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a conditional use permit for a short-term rental at 804 Shorewood Drive. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. Item F is a conditional use permit to allow a short-term rental of a three-bedroom home at 928 Westlake Drive. Again, the CDC reviewed this, recommended approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a conditional use permit to allow short-term rental at 928 Westlake Drive. Discussion?
Yes, Your Honor.
Bruce?
I'd just like to point out, this gentleman was at the Planning Commission and objected to condition 14, which is we asked him to provide the road right-of-way for Westlake Drive, as we've done with other properties along that stretch. and he objects to that. So I just hope we, as a city, I think we talked about this, making sure we do not allow the use of this property as a short-term rental until he's met all the conditions, including number 14.
So how enforceable is that?
Condition 14 on this one, Bruce?
Yeah.
Signing an easement.
Oh, I'm on the wrong one here.
That is
The way that would be enforced is that we would require that he provide that easement prior to starting any short-term rental.
And he doesn't have to grant the easement, that's true. We also don't have to approve the conditional use permit.
Absolutely.
Okay. So there are conditions, and one of them is that he provides us with that, provides the county with that easement, right? Okay. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. Item H is not a conditional use permit. We have something different. It is approving of the preliminary plat of Fultz Acres First Edition at 18923 Frontage Road. This relates back to the annexation that we want to do up there. Again, the CDC did review this, recommended approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a resolution approving the preliminary plat of Fultz Acres First Edition at 18923 Frontage Road. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you. Last item I have is H. It is a resolution approving amendments to the comprehensive plan related to the inventory, introduction, and social profiles. Basically, this is an updating to include updated statistics in the comprehensive plan. Again, the CDC reviewed this, recommended approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the amendments to the comprehensive plan related to the inventory, introduction, and social profiles. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay, Bruce will move to the Public Works Committee agenda.
Item A was just discussion regarding the possibility of a city-county joint highway department building. We didn't really have much to discuss. We'll get some more information and follow up with that in October. Item B, consideration request of Bob Rislin and Sons for a preliminary engineering report for subdivision of County Road 131 and North Tower Road. Again, they're just asking for a preliminary PER. The Public Works Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a preliminary engineering report for subdivision at County Road 131 and North Tower Road. Discussion on the motion?
Your Honor, this is something typically the proposer would pay for, and
right.
And so.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
There should be a resolution that came out, hopefully you all have it, for item C, resolution authorizing a preliminary engineering report, an intersection control evaluation report for Washington Avenue from Willow Street to Westlake Drive. John, maybe you could just give a real quick what the plans are here for this.
Mayor and council, staff met with Becker County staff last week. Just had a bit of a kickoff meeting for a project that we have in our capital improvement plan for next year, which is the reconstruction of Washington Avenue from roughly the Pavilion, Fairfield Inn, up to the Willow Street intersection, including the Willow Street intersection. The improvements will primarily revolve around reconstruction of the street, the sidewalks, and beautification, things like that, sort of carrying that theme of Washington Avenue further south. Not much to do in the way of sewer and water, really just stormwater and street. And then also as part of the project, we'll be looking at what sort of improvements we can make to the Willow and Washington intersection. We know that we'll be replacing the signals. The question is whether we can get some dedicated left turn, protected left turns into those signals, if we have room for that. That's what this ICE report will have to flush out, is whether we can do it, whether there'll be a benefit or an improvement if we do that, and things of that nature. So,
thank you, John.
The Public Works Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Second, please.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution authorizing a preliminary engineering report and intersection control evaluation report for Washington Avenue from Willow to Westlake Drive. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item D is consideration of request to approve a reduced pavilion rental rate for the 7th annual Tough Laker event to be held on Sunday, June 28, 2020. Sally Akron from the Community Center was at our meeting. That basically she's proposing to do the same thing she did this year, which is they didn't actually use the pavilion, they just set up outside of it. They only have the pavilion as a backup in case of rain. They had 275 kids this year, a record for them. Public Works Committee looked at this, recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a reduced nonprofit rental rate for the pavilion for the 7th annual Tough Laker event. Discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Your Honor, we took item H off the consent agenda. Again, I think there's just a couple of major projects we wanted to make sure the council and the public was informed on. Our city engineer, John Pratt.
Yeah, we've got a number of things still moving. I guess going from the top of the list, I'm going to skip some of these. Long Lake and County Road 131 are basically wrapped up, as well as the Randolph Road lift station. Number 4, Randolph Road, Chris Street to 54. We're still very much underway of that project. We've kind of got a lot of the grading done to the east of Highland Drive and Highland Drive. Hopefully we'll be looking at some curb and gutter here going in there in the next week or two, and then they'll be moving kind of to the second phase to the west of Highland Drive, but probably going to be under construction until at least the middle of October is sort of what I'm thinking right now. Highland Estates, that's really rolled in with that. We've got some water and sewer going into the Spillman development as part of that project. Westlake Drive, Legion to 6, county continues to work on easement acquisitions with property owners along that corridor. Still have that scheduled for construction in the second half of next summer at this point. Moving on to number 8, probably the most notable is the Willow Street West Avenue project. Willow Street's getting pretty close. Most of that's open to traffic. The eastern segment, we just have some sidewalk and driveways to finish up. If the rain would hold off for more than a day, we'd be able to get that finished up and reopened and be done with Willow for the year. I have had a number of people ask about the bump along the curb. We just put down the wear course. There will be the base course. We will be putting a wear course down next spring. So we kind of got to contend with that for now. West Avenue, they're very, very busy over there. A lot of equipment and folks working on that. We've got a ways to go. They're making good progress, but again, the rain isn't helping us right now, but still targeting to complete that. We just need Mother Nature to cooperate, but it probably will go right up till freeze up. So, other than that, a lot of the rest of these are sort of on hold at the moment. The Bergquist development, South Washington I talked about already. The South Shore Park and City Park multi-use trail, we awarded that last month. The contractor initially indicated they were going to do some work on that this year, and that's looking less and less to be the case, and probably be a next spring, summer project. And Long Pine Estates, we're also waiting on.
John, do you know, I know this is not a city thing, but do you know what they're doing to that roundabout at Willow and 59? I saw in the media that it was, there was something wrong with it?
Yeah, there's some pavement that deteriorated awfully quickly in there, so it's just really a mill and overlay. It should be relatively painless.
Okay.
So, but they will be doing that later in the season, yeah.
Any questions for John on some of the projects? Thanks, John.
That's all, Your Honor.
Do we need to approve that?
Oh,
Not really, do we? Just for information, right? Or do we if it's on the consent, we normally approve it? We better have a motion.
Move for approval.
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt or approve the city engineer's monthly project status report. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And we're to the Finance Committee. Madeline?
Yes.
Welcome back. We missed you last month.
Thanks. I would much rather have been here.
Yeah.
Item A is consideration to approving the American Legion campground rates for 2020. And the rates that you're looking at in your packet, the Finance Committee recommends a change to that and is recommending an increase of $125 per site for 2020. And I would make that motion.
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the American Legion campground rates for 2020. The increase will be $125 rather than, what was it, $100
100,
proposed
yes.
by the manager?
It was proposed, but
Okay.
just need to vote.
Yeah, further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Consideration to a resolution amending the bylaws of the Detroit Lakes Fire Department Relief Association to provide for an additional $500 per year for a lump pension sum of $7,800 for each year effective April 1st, 2020. The staff has recommended that we approve this. It meets all the necessary guidelines, and the Finance Committee so moves.
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a resolution amending the bylaws of the Detroit Lakes Fire Department Relief Association, providing an additional $500 per year to the pension. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Item C is consideration to a resolution establishing the preliminary budget and tax levy to be collected in 2020 and designating December 10th, 2019 at 6:01 p.m. as the date for public comment on the budget and proposed levy. And I'm happy to have Pam give us a brief overview of this.
Thanks, Madeline and Councilman. The Budget Committee met on 7 different occasions in the month of August, and at our last meeting, there was unanimous consent on a $5,745,991 levy for 2020. That is a 4.5% increase over 2019's levy. We are tentatively expecting the taxable market value in the city of Detroit Lakes, based on some preliminary numbers we have from the county, to increase about 9%. Based on that, if your property valuation stays the same, you should see your taxes go down and not up, even though the levy is increasing 4.5%.
Thank you, Pam. We'd like to hear that news.
That's good news.
Yeah.
So the Finance Committee moves that we establish that as the preliminary budget and tax levy, and that we designate December 10th as the date for public comment.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution establishing the preliminary budget tax levy collected in 2020, and we will have our public comment for the budget and levy at the City Council meeting December 10th at 6:01 p.m. And we, I believe, can only lower it. We can't increase it at this point then if we adopt this, right? Okay. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And thank you for all your hard work, and to the Budget Committee for all those meetings and other council members that have attended.
Item D is consideration to a resolution making fund transfers to the Public Works Building Fund and the Library Fund. And once again, I'll call on our finance officer to do a little explanation of these transfers.
Okay, Mayor and Councilman, as a result of our 2018 audit, we saw an increase in our unassigned general fund balance. And when the Budget Committee was meeting, they wanted to look at and recommend 2 one-time transfers of that general fund balance. One of those transfers is in the amount of $35,000 into the library capital fund. The library has several projects, capital projects that need to be completed, and we are only levying $10,000 a year under normal circumstances. So if we have a $40,000 project, it takes 4 years for the levy to get, to accumulate enough money to do the project, and there are several projects in the pipeline. So the Budget Committee wanted to recommend a $35,000 transfer to the library capital fund this year from the 2018 audit unassigned general fund balance. In addition to that, the Budget Committee wanted to recommend a transfer of $250,000 to the Public Works Capital Building Project Fund. As you know, we are in the planning stages of the construction of a new public works facility, and it will be, we have been increasing our levy, over the last 5 years to plan for the debt service that will be required to pay for that. This $250,000 will help take some of the pressure off. So the Budget Committee also wanted to recommend that $250,000 one-time transfer.
The Finance Committee moves that those fund transfers take place.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded that we make 2 fund transfers to the Public Works Building and the Library Fund. So Pam, these unassigned general funds, did that affect our levy then, or that was?
It did not.
It did not, okay.
It has no effect on the levy.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, the motion carries.
Item E is consideration to the request from North Country Food Bank, Inc. for a $5,000 one-time donation to help with the purchase of a new building for them in Grand Forks. They are, normally they are housed in Crookston. However, their building there has a run out of space, and they've also been tasked with finding a new building to meet codes, etc. For those of you that don't know, North Country Food Bank provides about 80% of the food that is distributed through the Becker County Food Shelf. Monies are purchased, food is purchased through the North Country Food Bank, and that's what makes it more reasonable. They also provide food for Boys and Girls Club, the Lakes Crisis Center, so they have a big presence here. And the Finance Committee determined that we should make a $5,000 donation to help with the purchase. And we've directed staff to look at avenues for making that one-time $5,000 contribution. And we so move.
Second it.
So the motion is to give them the money, the staff will figure out where it's going to come from. Madeline, is that the motion?
Yes.
Okay. Further discussion?
Yes.
Bruce?
Do we know if Becker County was asked to make it?
They were, and they have contributed. She has visited North Country Food Bank provides food to 21 different counties. She's managed to visit 17 of those counties, Becker County included. 17 counties have contributed, and she still has 4 counties to call.
Do you know, just off the top of your head, you know what Becker County did?
I do not know. Just know that they've contributed.
And this is going to be for a 35,000 square foot building. It's not a new building, but it takes care of all the needs that they have, and it's about half the price of what it would be if they were going to build a brand new building.
Yeah.
So it's quite a savings for them.
And Madeline, I think you said, must have a fire. Madeline, you said Grand Forks, but it's actually East Grand Forks.
East Grand Forks, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Kelsey, do you want to just mention, you and I were over we toured the existing food pantry, which is now being housed in one of our city buildings, and they really have a need for a better facility. So do you want to just recap how that meeting was?
Sure. Mayor and council, those who don't know, The current food shelf is housed in a city building up by the sports arena, by the gymnastics building. We do provide some assistance for kind of capital building needs if they have a furnace that goes down, those type of things. But basically, they pay no rent, and they basically cover all their operating costs. They have a need for more space. So we had a discussion about how we provide more space, and I think that led into a discussion of, is that the best building for them? Is that the best site for them? What other options should we be exploring for kind of the future of our own food shelf? So I think we're going to kick around some more ideas. Of course, there's a funding component to that. How do they raise the money to do a capital campaign? Basically, right now, they just fund their ongoing operations and feeding people. So how do they fund a new building or a remodeled building? So.
Yeah, for the amount of people that they help, it's really a woefully inadequate building, and it's not set up very well for their operations. So we're just keeping you in the loop that that's something that might be on the horizon for us to take a look at. So, Bruce?
Well, no, that's fine, Your Honor. And I was, as you know, I was on the food pantry board for a while, and they do a great job. So my comment isn't here that they don't do a good job, but it is the Becker County Food Pantry, and being on that board, I've noticed that the lack of commitment by the county to help out versus, again, as Kelsey mentioned, the city provides a lot of support and help and financial commitment to that pantry, which is great, but a lot of the folks that come there are outside the city limits. So I would just encourage the council in the future, if you go forward and ask for, if you're being asked for support for that we make sure the county's involved in that discussion, please.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I wholeheartedly agree. So, no action there, just for information. So, anything else, Madeline?
No.
We'll go to the public safety, Ron. Looks like
Okay, we actually don't have anything other than consent agenda, but I do want to bring up information about, we have a committee that's going out and looking at police departments and getting plans in from BKV, our architects, and we've done a lot of visiting, and when I talk about people in our committee is Police Chief Todd Kelsey, Plenary Administrator Matt Bulkey, John Joseph, myself, and Nathan Weber, and we visited police departments before, but now we visit some more. They've come back with some preliminary drawings with some information, and we're going to be meeting again here coming up at the end of the month with some more drawings and more information. And we hope that by next month's council meeting, we're going to have information in pictures to bring to the entire council here so that all of you will know where we're at on this and how it's going, and get an idea of design in the preliminary building. And it's all open for approval by all the people on the council to hear input, and so that'll be coming up here hopefully by our October meeting. But we've been out there looking at this, and we want to build a great police department that'll last, a building that will last for a long time for us, and a good building that's strong, and be able to do all the needs of that police department. And compared to what they've had and what we're going to the future, what we've seen is very, very nice. So we're working on it, and hopefully this time next month, you'll have a lot of information to look at and see where we're at and where we're going to go with it. So just some information.
Okay, Kelsey, can you just real quick recap of the timeline, the tax, and the bidding and the construction, et cetera?
Yes, Mayor and Council, so on the agenda, actually on the consent agenda in the Finance Committee, was the second reading of the sales tax ordinance. That was some of the clarifications that we had to put into effect that Department of Revenue requested. But that's still, the timeline is still October 1st is the start of the 0.5% sales tax. Those who collect sales taxes in the city of Detroit Lakes should receive a letter from Department of Revenue notifying them of that. So again, collections start October 1st. As far as planning-wise, we're still in that design phase, as Alderman Zeman explained. We do plan on having some preliminary plans and some renderings for the council to review in October. Our hope is to basically finish up design and try to get to bid as early as possible. The architect's thinking right now April. We told them that's too late. We want to be bidding earlier. So we're going to try to work on that and get out to bids as soon as we can. And then obviously if we bid in this spring, we'll be looking at construction right away this summer.
Okay, thank you. Ron, anything else?
No, that's all, Your Honor.
We'll go to the liquor gambling control. Dan?
Item A is discussion on a possible noise ordinance adjustments. Last month, we had a request to look at those items. One of the businesses was just interested in making some updates to that. We've got a draft that we kind of looked at today. It's kind of an ongoing item that we're going to be looking at over the next month or so. So there really isn't any change to any noise ordinance at this point. It's just a matter of we're reviewing all those items and seeing how we can make it work for all parties involved.
Anything else, Dan?
Nope, nothing.
Brunel, anything to bring to the council regarding the public utilities or the wastewater treatment plant or
I can give you a
anything?
quick update on the wastewater treatment.
How quick?
About the third week of August, GE Suez sent the cassettes for the MBR facility. They set them. We're in the process of clean water testing now. The staff started training on the operation of the MBR facility this morning. If things go well, the clean water testing is completed by the end of the week and they're comfortable with the training. Then we start introducing seed sludge to the MBR next Monday. And 10 days after that, we should be fully operational with the MBR and discharging of the new discharge point. So big milestone coming up over the next 12 to 14 days, Mr. Mayor and Council.
And when it's all done, that water that comes out of there is going to be so clean that Vice Mayor Zeman said he was going to drink a glass of water at the ribbon cutting.
I will provide that.
Right out of the pipe.
And I hope those bugs are working.
Thanks, Brunel.
If not, I'll let you know, Mayor.
Okay. I would like to reappoint Chet Collins to the Development Authority for an additional term, and I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Motion is made and seconded. Discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Some announcements and information. We should designate the week of September 9th through the 15th as Direct Support Professionals Week. Whatever that is. Can you tell me what it is?
There's a local company that works with mentally and disabled people.
Okay.
And we've hired some of their staff
Oh,
in the
okay.
meantime, so it's just giving support for.
So it's a positive, good thing.
Very positive.
I would entertain a motion to do a proclamation for the week of September 9th through the 15th as Direct Support Professionals Week.
So moved.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to designate September 9th through the 15th, 2019 as Direct Support Professionals Week. Discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. You'll have to let me know if you need a proclamation or if they provided one.
It's in there.
Oh, it's in there? Okay.
Yeah.
Also, I believe I designated September 8th as Women's Suffrage Day. So, just for your information. We mentioned that the Long Lake Phase 5 informational meeting will be on Thursday at 5:30 here in the council chambers. There's a League of Minnesota Cities regional meeting on September 26th in Perham. If you're interested in attending, please let Glory know. There are some changes to our committee meetings for November due to the Veterans Day holiday, and those are listed on your agenda. And Kelsey, Representative Marquardt received a very nice honor from the League of Minnesota Cities. He's been designated as a legislator of distinction by the league. Do you want to explain to the council what that's all about?
Correct, Mayor and Council. The League of Minnesota Cities recognizes a variety of legislators of House and Senate side based upon their contributions for causes that are supportive of city initiatives. And I think Representative Marquardt this isn't his first time receiving this distinction, but he did receive it again last year for his last legislative session. So I think we just want to recognize him for not only support of the city of Detroit Lakes, but his support of really city issues statewide.
Yep. Very good. So Vicki, I think you're going to get a press release from the League of Minnesota Cities regarding Representative Marquardt. So if you could put that in the newspaper, that'd be great.
Of course we will.
Thank you. Is there any additional items from city staff this evening? And the radio too, Carol.
It's already on their webpage.
Oh, you're really on top of things. Did you just sneak in?
She did. Some practice.
You swimming?
Bruce, anything further? Dan? Ron?
Well, I just, we've got an event over in Perham here on September 26th. The League of Minnesota Cities is going to have their meeting there, and it's so close to us. And if you haven't been to one of these meetings before, for some of you people that are new to the council, I would certainly recommend that you would go to it, because it is very informational, and you find out what's happening not only in our area, but also what's happening in other parts of the state. And then also on the very next day, down in Fergus Hall on the 27th, the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, they're going to have a meeting on housing. So we've got two good things to go to keep us up to date on what's happening in government and how we can make our towns better for our citizens. So I hope if you can't make one, you can make the other one. But there's one in Perham. It's so handy. Give it a try. You might like it. Say, gosh, that was informational. So please do so.
And I understand you're buying drink that night for any council members that show up?
I'm going to use your credit card.
Oh, boy. Thanks, Ron. Madeline?
Nothing.
Matt? No, Your Honor. Natalie?
No.
Jay?
No, sir.
Dan?
Nothing further.
The business of this council has come to a conclusion. The meeting's adjourned.